get to, we should have a ceasefire, not a ceasefire, we should have no hostage released, and then we can talk.
Hi friends, is the reason why nobody takes America seriously at this moment in time, which is obviously the first half of the title of this video. He goes up there, he says, I want a ceasefire, then he says, I don't want a ceasefire. And then he presumes to, I don't know, people have theorized something else was happening here besides, well, I'll let you guys see and let you guys figure it out on your own.
I apologize, I have to go to the situation with another issue. I have to do. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Many people have theorized that Joe may have actually crapped himself there. The minute this right here happened, there were rumors out there that Vladimir Putin went into cardiac arrest, but of course that's not been confirmed. But when it does get confirmed, we'll have a story out on that. With that there being said, let's get to the video. Well, we are back and we're going to be talking about our military. Now guys, I want you to know right now, this is going to be kind of a two-parter, but the other part's going to be on Gear Issue 33. Don't worry, I'll leave a link. Both videos will be out tomorrow. And of course, that video is going to be about the thirst trap problem that we have, which I will briefly mention in this video. Now, before we get started on this, I'm going to go let you know right now, this was going to be a bit of a brief rehash of the video that I released yesterday, but trust me, the reason why I'm doing this is to kind of set the overall topic up for this video, because looking at what's going on, and of course the stuff that I talked about yesterday, this right here does, in fact, need to be fixed. Now, guys, I want to just kind of give you guys some brief, quick notes about our military that a lot of people are not going to actually mention. Now, for the purposes of this video, I want you to know now that we're not talking about the Air Force, we're not talking about the Navy, and we're not talking about the Coast Guard or Space Force. We're going to primarily talk about the United States Marine Corps and the U.S. Army. But seeing how it is we have a situation that could be leading us to World War III, I need to go ahead and get this part out of the way now. One of the biggest deterrents that the United States has against any power that or any nation that has nuclear missiles is our overall Air Force. We have the largest Air Force in the world. I'll probably leave the infographics video, which is not the best source, but probably one of the better ones on the internet as far as like what you would actually expect. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there was this great debate a long time ago about the U.S.'s ability to be able to defend against nuclear strikes, and they were looking at the Patriot missile system versus the anti-missile systems, the defense missiles that would be used in other nations like, say, Russia or China. And the Patriot missile was slightly a little bit behind, but the reason why that is the case is because we chose to go with a different doctrine. For example, we love to use our F-15s, our F-16s, and whatever F-18s we have available as interceptors. Basically, the idea is that if a nuclear missile goes up in the air, which, by the way, the U.S. also has other ways to defend against a nuclear strike, what we would do is we would immediately send planes up in the air to actually hunt down these missiles and shoot them down. That's primarily what they're used for nowadays. Now, if you are in the Air Force or if you're in the Navy, please correct me on something if I'm wrong, because I'm pretty sure there are obviously other functions. F-15 Eagle can still, to my knowledge, can still fly and actually dogfight. And of course, you've got the 22 and the 35, which are in production. Now, I want you to know this really quick before we really get into this. I am, for the most part, an America First guy. I want to put Americans first at all times, but there are certain little tendencies about me that are, in fact, still pro the military-industrial complex, but pro the military-industrial complex as in how it is used. I don't like the way it is being used right now. If used properly, it can actually be of some good. But the main purposes of this video is talking about the ground force element that we're going to need to look forward to, or, well, actually, I don't really and truly look forward to, especially given all the social justice worrying of our military. And not to mention at the very end of this video, I'm going to have a couple more things for you guys at the very end to kind of give you an idea, because I'm going to be bringing some of these type of videos I have planned for Gear Issue 33 over here to Claymore, and I'm also going to explain the short time of prepping playlist, which of course is going to go back up there because it's actually the plan for 2024, but I figured out that we're going to talk about that stuff now while I'm here. With that rather out of the way, let's go ahead and rehash some of the things that have happened over the past weekend and some of the stuff we talked about yesterday.
For Marco Rubio here. Marco Rubio tweeted, I don't want, actually, you know, I'm going to play his video statement instead. We'll just listen to what he has to say.
One of the most important things President Biden needs to make clear tonight is that if U.S. troops, U.S. diplomats, U.S. personnel in the Middle East come under attack by these Iranian-backed and controlled Shia militia groups in the region, if they attack our people, we are going to consider that to be an attack by the government of Iran against the United States that will require an extensive response.
Here
An
we
extensive
go.
retaliatory response. Just in the last 24 hours, we've seen an uptick in attacks by these groups against the military forces, and there are troubling indicators that that's going to turn into a full-scale campaign, and we can't allow it. It is important the president make it abundantly clear by laying out clear and credible red lines that if Iran crosses, will require us to engage them. I don't want there to be a Middle East war. I don't want the U.S. involved in another Middle East war. But if Iran, through its proxies, decide to attack us, we're going to have to retaliate. And it's important, in order to prevent this, for the president to make that clear tonight.
What he basically said is, if anyone attacks our troops, we can just claim it was Iran and then declare war. Well, they never declare war.
Anytime
Just
something
say-
happens across the world, people would expect the United States to respond. I've always believed that the best way you can respond to a situation, if, say, troops are attacked overseas or if an installation is attacked, the reason why I say installation is like an embassy, maybe nobody gets hurt or harmed, you have to respond. And sometimes the best way to respond is not by using a ground force to invade an area, but actually it's normally better to bomb said area. It's what we call It's what we call a behavioral change technique. Somebody fires at, say, your men. Somebody decides to fire a rocket. It's kind of like what happened with Iran. What you do is that you pick a certain target, a military target, or a target that doesn't really have any civilians, and you bomb the little hell out of it. Kind of going back to the whole phrase of bomb the crap out of them. The reason why you do that is so that way they will stop attacking, and then at the same time, they will also get the message that you are not meant to be screwed with. That's really the best way to conduct foreign policy, so that way you don't find yourself getting into a war. Invasions are not always necessary. I've said this before. I don't like invasions. I don't like the idea of using the military for that purpose unless absolutely necessary. Like, for example, if somebody attacked the United States and, I don't know, maybe 260 of our people got killed, then yeah, I'm probably going to want to invade the nation that actually killed 260 Americans. Same situation with Americans being held hostage. Now, that was a little bit different. Obviously, you want to use special forces, but of course, that right there is what we're talking about, is for the most part the ground element. When I was in the Marines, I was a tanker, M1A1 tank crewman. And for whatever reason, they chose to cut tanks out of the Marines. I have no idea why they did that. They're claiming that they did it to kind of make the United States Marine Corps a little bit more amphibious, even though the United States Marine Corps is an amphibious, is the amphibious branch that we would use in case we did, in fact, have to invade a nation. But seeing how it is that 70% of our military right now is overweight, a lot of people are concerned that the United States might not even be able to mount said ground invasion if needs be. Also, to go on top of this, and we briefly touched on this in yesterday's video, we got this issue with recruitment. Nobody's wanting to join. Only the United States Marine Corps is even meeting its actual military goals. Now, me personally, I think that one way you could fix this issue is to activate pretty much anybody and everybody who's a reserve. I mean, not the National Guard, I'm talking about U.S. Army Reserve. It would cost a little bit more money, obviously, but the men that would be, and I didn't really touch on it the way I wanted to, but I touched on it in the video about 70% of the military being overweight. One of the things that I learned, and I learned this when I was working at a Best Buy back in 2014. I was working with another guy who was Army. I kind of told this story in that video. The guy, we used to go at one another. Of course, we're still friends. I'm not going to give away any names or anything like that. We used to pick on one. We used to pick on Marines about being basically a bag of rocks, jarheads, crayon eaters. And of course, we would always clap back going after the Army because we always made fun of them being overweight. I'm not here to pick on any branches or anything like that. That's not what I'm doing. It's just inter-service rivalry. We play around one of it, but we all understand each branch's actual main goal, what each function eventually is. And the thing that he told me was that I would actually pick on him about that. He said, man, chances are you're probably running into a lot of reservists. Now, when I was in the military, I had to go to Fort Knox, Kentucky, because I had to go through tank school then. That's before they decided to move it to Georgia. And the overweight issue, which, of course, you're mostly seeing Army boot camps, not going to be much of an issue there. But you see a lot of officers, a lot of staff NCOs who are overweight, have gotten a little bit older. And I understand that sometimes the job that you're doing is going to keep you from being able to get into shape or stay in shape. But still, at the same time, it's a bit of a concern, especially if you need guys to actually go out and fight. Also, something else to go on top of this, only about a third of the forces that we have between the United States Marine Corps and the Army is even boots on the ground. It's one of the things that I mentioned in the gun confiscation videos, that you're more than likely never going to be able to pull that off because the overall military itself is not actually the size that you would need to go out there and go collect 400 some odd million guns. You're not going to be able to use the police department to do that. You're not going to be able to use the federal government to do that. It's basically a great big giant pipe dream. Everything that they sign as far as legislation is concerned when it comes to guns is just another nuisance that eventually gets overturned at the Supreme Court. That being said, I would still want to activate the reserve. It basically forces the men to PT the normal 3 days a week. I understand that some men are bigger than others and stronger than others and have more overall muscle mass. And BMI is a bit bullshitty, but excuse my language. But the thing is this right here. At the end of the day, you still want to have your men lean and mean and ready to fight, and you would obviously still want them to have great cardiovascular. I may have briefly mentioned the golden hour rule, where you need to be able to pump enough blood in case you actually do get hit or in case you do, in fact, get smoke checked. The reason why is so that way your heart can continue to pump blood until somebody actually gets to you. You stand a better chance of survival. Nobody wants to get killed in combat, but obviously this type of stuff does, in fact, happen. But basically, there's one of the main reasons why it is that we need to get our men back in shape. We need to get our men back at the proper weight they need to be. But when you look at the overall overweight situation, you got to factor in that they're factoring all of the military, and they probably did not factor in the main force that you would actually use, of course, in the event of invasion. The administrative wing, supply wing, those guys are probably not going to see action like grunts, infantry, which is the same thing. Guys who are artillery, people who are in Amtraks, going around on vehicles, motor T, you're not going to see the same thing. But still at the same time, if you're in the Marines, you're a rifleman first. If you are in the Army, you've still got to go through rifle boot camp. Now, when I was in, and for the most part it's still the same, the United States Marine Corps, we shot from 200, 300, and 500 yards out, where the Army shot from 1, 2, and 3. They may have updated the standard for the Army, but I know that the Marine Corps, and I'm not going to mention family or anything on this channel, so I don't want to dox anything, but I do obviously still keep up with what the Marine Corps is doing. However, what I do not like is the fact that they're using ACOGs at the rifle range in boot camp. When I went through, we had to use iron sights. As a matter of fact, I've talked to a couple of young Marines who did not believe that we used iron sights back in 2003, 2004 timeframe. Yes, we still use iron sights. As a matter of fact, I actually prefer to fire with an iron sight, use an iron sight over a scope. That's just how I am. I'm old school that way. And quite frankly, I don't like the idea of bore sighting unless I'm going to be firing more than 600 yards out. It's just the way that it is. If you guys want to go out there and bore sight your rifles before you go hunting and whatnot, go right ahead and do so. You still got to bore sight your AR-15 when you get it, but still at the same time, thinking about the situation that whatever I'm going to be shooting, because I can't go out and hunt like I want to, I'm probably going to have to, let's just say, I'm going to have to bank on wherever the hell I'd be forced to shoot being right in front of my face, so therefore bore sighting is not going to matter as much. It's just the way that it is, but obviously you still need to go out there and go bore sight your weapon. I just am in a position where I can't really do so. Just some of the small changes that they're doing. Boot camp, overall training itself needs to be way harder, and emphasis on physical fitness does in fact need to be put front and center. And that right there includes everybody of all jobs. But before we go any further, let's play this clip right here, because obviously civilians oftentimes who may not, and I'm not doing this to make fun of civilians, but they may not understand the situation that we're looking at. Let's go ahead and roll this.
I mean, they're going to have to do something soon, right? There's a report out today that one of the major reasons people can't enlist is because obesity is so high. I mean,
that's what they say.
We're impending on war faster than we can solve the problems that we have created that make it difficult for people to join the military. And by that I mean they don't qualify to join the military. And other than lowering the standards, which is not really good for a military fighting population, I'm not sure how we get past this issue. The fact of the matter is, and I'm a broken record here. I know anyone who's heard me on the show before has heard me say this, but the statistics bear out that there's a very slim majority of people, or slim margin of people, that can make the standards to enlist in the military, and of those people, very few of them are willing to do it. So, great for her that she has 1 million TikTok followers. On the other hand, she doesn't have a 100% success rate because we are not converting that many people into military recruitment.
True.
Yeah, it's down.
That's true. Yeah, I think it's the lowest. They've had like the lowest recruitment,
Lowest ever.
like 14 years or something.
Almost
I thought it was
every
ever.
branch, very few branches are making their
Is it
recruitment
ever?
goals.
thought
This
so.
is something that's been happening consistently for the past at least 3 years, probably longer. And in fact, military enlistment has been down for a long time. I mean, to be fair, I've mentioned this before. My brother was in the Marine Corps. He deployed to Afghanistan. The thing is, like, he was. I don't even remember how old he was. He was very young when we got involved in that. There were people who went after him who were not alive when everything broke out in the Middle East. This is going to be the reality for Gen Z. They're going to be this generation that is saying, are we about to enter a war that we will be in endlessly on multiple fronts? And the messaging around it will always be ambiguous. It'll be unclear what our actual goals are. And I think that's definitely the case now that we have war in Ukraine, we have conflict in Israel, and then presumably we're going to have something happen in Taiwan. I mean, do you want to be deployed? Do you want to go into active conflict like this?
Well, and
Probably
your
not.
body will not be your choice because they have forced vaccinations in the military. So
Well, they got
What makes the situation a lot worse is the fact that we have leadership that's openly tried to destroy our military. I don't blame a single parent for not wanting their child to join, especially at this point in time in the world with everything going on with this type of leadership. I mean, the other day, Fox News had a guy on, young kid of color. I want to say he was right around 19, 20 years old, and he had no, that's not what it was. I apologize. He was like in his early 20s, like 22 or 23. He did, in fact, vote in 2020 for Joe Biden, and he was asked who he was going to vote for, and he said he was going to be voting for whoever the Republican nominee is, more than likely Donald Trump, because he did not want to be put in a position someday where if he was forced to go overseas, say if he was drafted or whatnot, that his body would be coming off the plane in Dover, and he wouldn't want a president that would just check his watch. It's pretty sad, too, because I obviously never really thought about that when I actually joined back in 2003. But still, given the situation that we're in, we still have to find a way to strengthen our overall military, especially given the fact that we're looking at not only Israel, not only the situation in Ukraine, but we're looking at the possibility of China and Taiwan. And, of course, that situation could, in fact, get hot because the Taiwanese elections are coming up in 2024, and I'm pretty sure if certain results don't go a certain country's way, the way they want them, then chances are they're probably going to want to move in there. We've also got this other issue with Russia where apparently Armenia and the Azerbaijan, they have been at each other's throats over a border clash. And many people believe that there's possibility of another war going on in the Middle East, probably between Iran or another nation not named the U.S. or not named Israel. We could be looking at upwards to 5 conflicts before the end of the year is over with, and people are obviously going to scream for the United States not to get involved because, quite frankly, we're really and truly not ready for this. At least the ground element is not, which I really think is probably the most important one. What the girl is mentioning at the very end is that she's mentioning the time frame of Afghanistan, and of course, let me go ahead and take you guys back in time. This country's veterans, the way things work, we look at World War I, World War II, and of course we look at Korea and we look at Vietnam, and of course we also look at the Gulf War and we look at OIF and OEF. Those are the main wars that we look at. Now, what I'm about to bring up to you guys is something that I've not discussed on this channel, and the plan was to put this type of video out on Gear Issue 33 because it's the main military channel. But the more and more I think about it, seeing how it is that this channel right here primarily works against what's really just Marxism that's going on in the country itself, there's some videos that I wanted to do, and of course it's this topic here, overall veteran fireback rate. So if you've ever read Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman's work, and I've got his books. I've read 2 of them. Right now I'm working on Combat, which is actually the first one. I've read On Killing and Assassination Generation. And he's also got another one on school shooters, which I'm going to be reading that one too, because there's projects that I wanted to do videos on. I wanted to get some additional insight before I decided to do those projects. You have to look at the overall fireback rate. 15% in World War I, 35% in World War II. Now, the reason why the fireback rate was so low is because men were trained at that time to still kind of live and let live. So while they were there to definitely kill the enemy, they would definitely have preferred that the enemy be killed by artillery and shelling, tanks. We get to Korea, the combat is a little bit more close quarters. Not trying to rip World War II veterans. I love all vets, especially World War II vets. I mean, you guys got to fight the Nazis. And, of course, you guys had to fight the Japanese who did kamikaze runs. I advise you guys to go look at the casualty counts in World War II between the Pacific Theater and, of course, the European Theater. And you will notice that the Pacific Theater, there weren't a whole lot of wounded, mostly due to the fact that the Japanese were kamikazes and they would actually kill themselves to kill you. Different type of animal, different breed of animal. Same type of animal that we fought in the Middle East. By the way, when I say animal, I don't mean that in a term as in a derogatory term. I mean that as in a mammal itself, because we are still classified as animals from time to time. It's just a different breed is basically what I'm trying to say. I'm saying this for the YouTube censors because they're probably going to yellow tag the video anyways. By the time you get to Korea, the fireback rate turns 55%. When you get to Vietnam, the fireback rate is right around 70 to 75%. Many people forget that the Vietnam veteran was the greatest veteran that this country actually ever produced. Yet but yet we sit here and we look back and they say, well, we lost the war. We lost the war because of the politicians. Same thing happened in Korea. The men in the field did not lose that war. It's a shame how Vietnam veterans were treated. Then you get to the Gulf War, and then eventually you get to Operation Iraqi Freedom, and all of a sudden that fireback rate becomes 95%. That means that if you shoot at one of our men, and let's just say you miss, it is almost a 100% guarantee that our guys are going to shoot back. Now, did the training change? Did it get much harder? Well, here's my personal theory on this, and this right here is the model that we need to be going back to, was the global war on terrorism model. I personally think that there are other factors that were involved, and you would probably think that some of those factors would in fact be around today and would actually be intensified, especially given all the things that our society has been exposed to. But once again, I got to use that phrase one more time. The Gen Z later millennial is not the same animal as the early millennial Gen Xer. I personally think that the generations stop at 1986, meaning that if you were born before 1986, you're not really a millennial, you're actually a Gen Xer. You're just a very, very late stage Gen Xer. And if you were born like 87 to like 2000, you're more than likely going to be a millennial, whereas if you were born in 2000 or 2001 today, you're going to be Gen Z. I like to call those groups, or you could call them Generation Y, that they're being from 1987 to 2001, but still at the same, because it's the group that just keeps on saying Y or everything. But still, the thing is this right here. The global war on terrorism training doctrine was designed to get men ready for combat fast, because we had gotten nailed on 9/11. You guys can think what you want to in the comment section. We were in Afghanistan. Next thing you know, we were in Iraq. So we had a lot of men coming from Afghanistan who were deployed there in late 2001 or early 2002 that were actually being redirected for the actual deployment in Iraq, the actual invasion itself. And you had a lot of veterans mixed in with a lot of green troops. That right there got those men ready. And of course, during the initial push into Iraq, we did very, very well, extremely well. One of the main factors that I think forced this 95% fireback rate was the way that men were raised going into the fight itself, going into the military. I think pop culture, believe it or not, actually had a lot to do with it. When you have action movies playing in your face, it's just my personal theory. Rambo, you grow up watching Die Hard, and you look at basically all forms of television violence, sex and drugs on TV, and bad language, you're probably going to be naturally a little bit more dehumanized. Of course, people have talked about Saturday morning mind control, stuff like that there, which is something I may dive into when the channel gets bigger, because in 2024, we're going to be doing a lot more, and I mean a lot more, let's just say much deeper stuff as far as explanations and, of course, the media criticism, and that topic would, in fact, come up. Nowadays, we have a generation that gets upset. They get triggered very easily. They don't know which bathroom to use. Yeah, we've got a lot of problems. And, of course, we've got a lot of people that are, in fact, not exactly putting out. And, of course, there are people out there who would love to say things like this, where once again, a rehash from last night.
Be mandatory. Any politician who calls for this should be airdropped there first. Mandatory, right away. You go first, Marco Rubio. You go first, Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
You go first.
I agree.
It should be mandatory.
Lindsey-
you want to call
Lin-
for war, then you have to go serve. Why is that radical? Well, no. They're just too important. They're too
They're
important.
not that important, you know.
They're too important. We can't airdrop them into the places they want
Let's
to
have a
bomb.
vote.
People work remotely
places-
all the time. Surely they can call in.
Well, we'll have a vote. We'll have the people of South Carolina vote. Should Lindsey Graham, who advocated for war with Iran, be sent to Iran to help coordinate and lead the charge?
Overwhelmingly, people would say yes. If you said it should be mandated
And
that
because
they go to war.
Democrats are so proud of their vote for Joe Biden and they support him even now to this day, we should also, when we're doing the draft and we're saying who should go to war, I think the Joe Biden supporters that voted for him, they should be at the front of the list.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah, I think that makes sense too.
I think that's a great idea.
Question
You
is-
vote for war, go fight it.
Do we send?
Would be very, very much in favor of sending Democrat voters overseas to fight what it was that they actually voted for. I mean, the vast majority of these people put the Ukrainian flag up in their bio, and now they're putting the Star of David up in their bio when they were actually very, very much on the opposite end at one point in time. This generation, I mentioned it yesterday, has got a lot more mental illness. We have a lot more suburban kids. We have a lot more kids who have been hooked on video games their entire lives. A lot more kids have been hooked on anime. I've got nothing against anime. I'm just simply calling it for what it is. And a lot of these people, of course, voted for what the hell is in office now. But still at the same time, how effective would they really and truly be? Well, boot camp would obviously fix the vast majority of this, but seeing how it is that people are now operating on the lens of race nowadays and inferiority versus superiority, it makes me believe that overall unit morale is going to be down, which tells me that we need a full-on, and I mean a full-on military rebuild as in overall doctrine for ground troops. Now, we use our technology more than anything, and I'm glad that we have more planes. As a matter of fact, I hope and pray that we get more fighter jets. As a matter of fact, I'm all in favor of a much, much larger Navy than we have. Because while it is like a 360 ship Navy, I would personally like it to get to 550 to 600. China's building a great big giant blue water Navy, and while it is for the most part a paper mache Navy, that does not mean you need to sleep on it. I think we need a much, much larger Navy. We need more overall people in the Navy. We also need to activate our U.S. Army Reserve so that way those men can get full-time training. We also, at the same time, need to get more men in the military. But then again, at the same time, I had a video that I was planning on doing this called A Crisis in Men, or the Incoming Crisis with Men, and something else has just been thrown in there. I'm showing you this little automated thing from Amazon. I did not able to get the factory, but it's been floated around the internet for a while. We're looking at robotics coming back, and if robotics end up coming back, next thing you know, you're going to have a lot of people who are unemployed. However, the sad reality is this right here, and one of my subscribers mentioned this, and like I said, you guys know me, I don't put the person's name out there for security purposes. He made a very good point to me. He said more than likely there will not be a draft. What will probably happen is that the poor kids will more than likely, the very, very few that enlist, they'll be the ones that are forced to go fight. I see this right here, and I think to myself, with the current environment that we have, the current Biden administration, the current fact that we have hyperinflation, the vast majority of the jobs that people are getting right now are part-time jobs, and to go on top of it being part-time jobs, it's also... let's just say that you're working 2 to 3 jobs, only get about 10 hours a week from each job. You're not going to have enough money. And of course, if you paid very close attention to the situation at Harvard, where a lot of people suddenly got blacklisted, that was a video that I meant to have out. But of course, the more and more and more I got into that video, the more and more I realized it was going to be about 2 hours long, and I wasn't ready to do that. So we would just kick that one down the can to next year to be put on the list as a video essay where I can be a little bit more concise and a little bit more on script. The more and more I look at this, the more and more I see that a crash is coming, and to go on top of this, we're going to have a lot of people out of work. Men are not exactly having sex like they should be, and women are not exactly dating. One of the problems that I see coming in the near future is that I see a lot of women in their late, I'd say probably their mid to late 20s are going to be marrying men in their late 30s and early 40s because the men that are their age are not considered to be a part of that top 10%. Well, what do you think happens to all the single men? And suddenly they can't find work. It doesn't matter who the president is. It doesn't matter how many reforms you sign. What do you think happens to those men? They end up joining the military. And that right there is the main reason why it is that we need to fix our military. And right now, it would be best that we don't put any troops on the ground in the Middle East because we're not ready to go to war. Fact of the matter is that our doctrine needs to go back to the global war on terrorism doctrine, maybe even the Vietnam doctrine. I've seen some stuff where they're trying to train men to bust bunkers, but here's the problem. If the man next to you is concerned about the other person's race, or if they've been raised a certain way and they have a certain level of mistrust in that person due to whatever reason because of the media, chances are that military is probably going to get pulverized. Unit cohesion is what we need. And of course, we'll be talking about the U.S. military's thirst trap problem in the next video, which will be on Gear Issue 33. But I do want to leave you with a couple of things. The reason why I decided to do this video was mostly to kind of alert you guys to something that, quite frankly, is going to be a problem in the future, something that we're dealing with now. The CRT, these lenses and stuff, I have to say it very weirdly because of the algorithm. It's got me spooked, and it's got probably a lot of other people scared. And we got a lot of idiots out there who don't want to join. But trust me, there's going to be a group that's going to want to join because of the current economic situation. They're not going to feel like they have a choice in the matter because mom and daddy just ain't going to take care of them, or they're going to be able to take care of them. Some of this is even going to happen in some of the suburban homes too. Just kind of prepping you guys for that. That's part of the reason why it is that this next part is very crucial. You see, guys, what I've decided to do with the channel going into next year is obviously to go into video essays that are much, much deeper. The videos that you see that are uploads are going to be going into the playlist of old culture war takes. Some videos are probably even going to get privated, mostly due to the fact that I don't want to delete them because it ruins your algorithmic rhythm when you do that. But I'll probably private certain ones because, I just don't find them to be very useful nowadays, nor actually enjoyable. But of course, some of the older takes will still be up there for you guys to go look and make fun of and see exactly how far we've come. But the thing is this right here. Videos like this right here would go in that short time of prepping section. And of course, you would still get a video like what I'm doing right now from time to time. Obviously, I'm buying 2 brand new microphones this year for Christmas. And we mostly be talking about, it would basically like when you see me out in front of the camera, it would for the most part be a prepping video something going on in the cities with immigration or something like that there, crime. There would be there would be fewer and far between. Probably like one video every couple of days is what it would be, and then of course the big videos would come out on the weekend, which is actually where most of my audience is because I understand that the vast majority of my watch demographic is above the age of 25, and I'm pretty sure that most of you guys, at least as far as I can see, most of the viewership that comes in typically tends to view the videos on the weekends. That's when those longer form, more concise videos would come out. As far as doing stuff like film for social commentary and stuff, I'll probably just create another channel for that. I plan on having 3 total channels opened up next year for this type of stuff because the way we're doing it allows me to actually have more time, more freedom to actually diversify the content. The only reason why I haven't really done it is because I'm trying to wait until the month of December to actually get another editor. I was probably going to go back to Adobe is what I was going to do, but I don't want to, I got to make sure I've got the full month. I want to go ahead and pay for it all outright before I decide to do a monthly payment. But still, that's kind of what to expect. And of course, some of those videos that I wanted to put on Gear Issue 33 about Marxism in the military and the problems with politics in the military and the stuff that I mentioned earlier from Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, some of the studies, some of the veterans type stuff. I'm going to be bringing that stuff over here to Claymore because it is very, very much societal issues that we do need to discuss and have conversations about. And you guys need to be made aware of it. That stuff will be coming over here where Gear Issue 33 will just be purely the military movie, military weapons, and military history channel. I just wanted you guys to know that. But the playlist is going to be changing, and I'll give you guys some updates on that over here and over there as well. I'm going to be probably doing another bit of an update section for the video for the Army's thirst trap problem, or the military's thirst trap problem. So make sure you guys go subscribe to Gear Issue 33. I'll leave a link in the description box, probably in the form of a video for you guys to watch, so that way you guys can subscribe there. Just make sure you guys, once again, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts. Both of these videos will be out on Tuesday afternoon, and of course Wednesday we should go back to our normal schedule. October is a very wonky month for me, and then I have like a good 6 to 8 weeks where I can just blow through stuff. But of course there may be a break in December. I'm not sure because I know most of you guys will be out there Christmas shopping for your kids and your family and stuff. Still though, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. Please hit the notifications bell, leave a comment. I would love to get you guys, so you guys get you guys' thoughts. And I'll see you guys later.